He's the filmmaker who made Hong Kong laugh, cheer, and spend billions at the box office. He's also the man critics love to hate, a director celebrated for his commercial genius and condemned for his lowbrow taste. From creating the iconic god of gamblers to his public feuds with superstars like Jackie Chan, the story of Wong Jing is a wild ride through the heart of popular cinema. It's a tale of incredible success, constant controversy, and one man's unapologetic quest to entertain the masses, no matter the cost. For more deep dives into cinematic legends, subscribe to our channel. For Wong Jing, the world of filmmaking was not a distant dream, but the environment of his childhood. Born Wong Yat Cheong in 1955, he grew up in the shadow of the Hong Kong film industry, a world his father, the respected director Wong Tin Lam, navigated with professional ease. The young Wong Jing was a backstage observer, absorbing the frantic energy of film sets, the collaborative chaos of production, and the singular focus on creating stories that would captivate an audience. This early immersion was not a formal education, but something more elemental. It was an apprenticeship by observation, teaching him the practical rhythms of an industry that valued speed, efficiency, and above all, a product that could fill movie theaters. He learned the language of cinema not in a classroom, but in the editing bays and on the sound stages where his father worked, seeing firsthand how narratives were built, stars were made, and entertainment was manufactured for the masses. His official entry into this world came in the mid-1970s, not on a film set, but in the bustling writers' rooms of Television Broadcast Limited, the dominant television station known as TVB. This was the ultimate training ground. TVB was a content factory, churning out dramas and variety shows at a relentless pace to feed the insatiable appetite of the Hong Kong public. For a young scriptwriter, it was a trial by fire. There was no time for artistic indulgence or writer's block. Deadlines were constant and demanding. Here, Wong Jing honed his craft, learning to write quickly, effectively, and with a keen sense of what the public wanted. He developed an almost instinctive understanding of popular storytelling, mastering the art of the snappy punchline, the dramatic cliffhanger, and the broadly appealing character. He was learning to be a commercial storyteller, a skill that would define his entire career. The fast-paced, results-driven environment of television instilled in him a pragmatism and a work ethic that would later allow him to become one of the most prolific filmmakers in Hong Kong history. By the early 1980s, Wong Jing was ready to make the leap from the small screen to the silver screen. He transitioned to the legendary Shaw Brothers studio, the undisputed giant of Hong Kong cinema. Working as a screenwriter, he was now playing in the major leagues. He applied the lessons learned at TVB to the larger canvas of feature films, and it did not take long for him to get his chance to direct. In 1981, he stepped behind the camera for his first feature, Challenge of the Gamesters. The film itself was a modest success, but it was significant as a blueprint for his future. It was a gambling movie, a genre he would return to time and again with phenomenal success. It showcased his knack for blending action with clever schemes and a touch of comedy, a formula that was instantly accessible and entertaining. This debut was a clear statement of intent, signaling the arrival of a new director who was not interested in reinventing cinema, but in perfecting a brand of popular entertainment that audiences would eagerly consume. Throughout the 1980s, Wong Jing built his reputation with astonishing speed. He became known as a reliable hitmaker, a director, and producer who could deliver a profitable film on time and on budget. He developed a signature style that was unmistakably his own. His films were a potent cocktail of slapstick comedy, often verging on the absurd, slickly choreographed action sequences and the high-stakes drama of the gambling table. He was not aiming for critical praise. He was aiming squarely for the box office. He understood that Hong Kong audiences, living in a high-pressure, fast-paced city, often went to the movies for pure escapism. They wanted to laugh, to be thrilled, and to be entertained without having to work too hard. Wong Jing gave them exactly that. His films from this era, like The Romancing Star, were light, fun, and immensely popular, establishing him as a commercial powerhouse who had his finger firmly on the pulse of the movie-going public. The decade culminated in a film that would not only define his career, but also become a cultural touchstone for a generation of Hong Kong movie fans. In 1989, he released God of Gamblers. The film was a phenomenon. It starred Chow Yun-fat at the peak of his charisma as the suave, chocolate-loving master gambler Ko Chun, and a young Andy Lau as his eager protege. The movie was the perfect distillation of the Wong Jing formula, elevated by its star power and a slick, confident style. It seamlessly blended high-stakes poker action with moments of broad comedy and surprising heart. It was cool, funny, and endlessly rewatchable. God of Gamblers did more than just sell tickets. It shattered all-time box office records and created a sensation. It launched a massive trend for gambling films that would dominate the local cinema for years to come. For Wong Jing, it was the ultimate validation of his approach. He had proven, on the grandest scale imaginable, that he knew exactly what the audience wanted. The film cemented his status as the king of commercial Hong Kong cinema. A prolific and powerful filmmaker who had risen from the fast-paced world of television to become one of the most successful and influential directors of his time. If the late 1980s cemented Wong Jing's status as a commercial force, the 1990s saw him become an industry unto himself. He entered the decade riding the massive wave of success from God of Gamblers, and he showed no intention of slowing down. This was the zenith of his career, a period where his name on a movie poster was almost a guarantee of box office gold. He became one of the most bankable and influential figures in all of Hong Kong cinema, a prolific hitmaker whose output was as staggering as it was successful. He did not just direct, he wrote and produced at a relentless pace, having a hand in a significant portion of the entire industry's output. His production company became a factory for popular entertainment, churning out films across multiple genres, from action to romance to broad comedy, all bearing his unmistakable commercial stamp. He was no longer just a director, he was a mogul, a kingmaker who could turn actors into stars and concepts into blockbusters. Central to his reign in the early 90s was his legendary collaboration with the undisputed king of comedy, Stephen Chow. Together, they created a string of classics that would define the era. Their partnership was a perfect storm of comedic genius and commercial instinct. Films like Tricky Brains and the two-part epic Royal Tramp were more than just movies, they were cultural events. They perfected a unique style of Cantonese comedy known as Mo Lei Tao, which translates roughly to makes no sense. It was a chaotic, anachronistic, and wildly inventive form of humor built on non-sequiturs, wordplay, and a complete disregard for logic. Wong Jing's fast-paced direction provided the perfect framework for Chow's manic, deadpan delivery. They were a dream team, and audiences could not get enough. These films were enormously successful, further solidifying Wong's reputation as a director who understood precisely what made audiences laugh. He knew how to package Chow's unique talent into slick, fast-moving comedies that dominated the box office and became instant classics. Yet, as his commercial power grew, so did the controversies surrounding him. His reputation as a pragmatist who valued efficiency over artistry led to a very public and memorable clash with another Hong Kong cinema legend, Jackie Chan. The two titans collided during the making of the 1993 film City Hunter, an adaptation of a popular Japanese manga. Their filmmaking philosophies were polar opposites. Chan was a meticulous perfectionist, famous for his grueling stunt work and his demand for complete creative control. He would spend days setting up a single complex action sequence. Wong Jing, on the other hand, was famously fast, focused on getting the shots he needed and moving on to the next setup. The friction was inevitable. On-set arguments became the stuff of industry legend. a clash between the artist and the industrialist. Chan was reportedly unhappy with the film's tone and Wong's breakneck shooting schedule, while Wong found Chan's perfectionism to be a frustrating obstacle to completing the film. The resulting movie was a commercial success, but the conflict left a lasting mark, highlighting Wong Jing's often contentious relationship with his collaborators and his unwavering commitment to his own efficient methods. This conflict was symptomatic of a wider criticism that dogged Wong Jing throughout the decade. While audiences packed the theaters, film critics and cinephiles were often merciless. They consistently labeled his work as lowbrow, crass, and formulaic. They accused him of pandering to the lowest common denominator, filling his movies with slapstick humor, cheap gags, and a perceived lack of artistic merit. He became a critical punching bag, the embodiment of a commercial cinema that many felt was sacrificing quality for profit. Some of his films, particularly the ones he produced in the risque Category 3 genre, were also condemned for being exploitative and sensationalist. This created a stark divide in his public perception. To the movie-going public, he was a reliable source of fun and escapism. To the critical establishment, he was a symbol of the artistic decline of Hong Kong cinema. Wong Jing himself seemed to revel in this role, often firing back at his critics and making it clear that he had no interest in their validation. His only critics, he often implied, were the accountants and the box office reports, and by that measure, he was an undeniable success. His personal life also became fodder for the city's voracious tabloid press, further cementing his place in the public consciousness. His close professional and personal relationship with the actress Ching Mi Yao was a subject of constant speculation and gossip. Yao starred in many of his most famous films from this period, becoming his on-screen muse. Their partnership was a key element of his 90s success, but it also kept his name in the headlines for reasons that had little to do with filmmaking. This constant media attention, combined with his public feuds and the ongoing debate about the quality of his work, made Wong Jing more than just a director. He was a celebrity, a controversial and larger-than-life figure who dominated the industry both on-screen and off. The 1990s were his kingdom, a decade where he churned out hits, courted controversy, and unapologetically reigned as the undisputed, if often criticized, king of commercial Hong Kong cinema. As the new millennium dawned, the vibrant, chaotic world of Hong Kong cinema that Wong Jing had so thoroughly dominated began to change. The golden age of the late 80s and early 90s, with its boundless energy and local focus, was fading. The 1997 handover of Hong Kong to China altered the economic and cultural landscape, and the local film market, once a regional powerhouse, started to shrink. In its place, the colossal market of mainland China began to emerge as the new center of gravity for Chinese-language cinema. For many Hong Kong filmmakers, this was a period of uncertainty and crisis. But for Wong Jing, the ultimate pragmatist, it was simply a new market to conquer. He adapted with the same shrewd business sense that had defined his entire career. He became one of the pioneers of the Hong Kong-China co-production model, retooling his style to appeal to a broader mainland audience, while still retaining elements of the Hong Kong flavor that had made him famous. His output remained as relentless as ever, a constant stream of action films, comedies, and dramas pouring into theaters. Yet, something had shifted. While many of these new films were commercially successful, they often lacked the raw, anarchic spirit of his earlier work. His From Vegas to Macau series, for instance, reunited him with his legendary star Chow Yun-fat in a clear attempt to recapture the magic of God of Gamblers. The new films were glossy, expensive, and filled with stars, but they felt more like calculated brand extensions than cultural events. The chaotic, distinctly Cantonese Mo Tao humor was toned down, replaced by a more universally palatable slapstick. The gritty local texture of his classic films was often replaced by the polished sheen of international co-productions. For many of his longtime fans, it felt like the rebellious energy had been traded for corporate polish. He was still a successful producer and director, but the cultural impact of his work was arguably less profound. He was no longer setting trends, but rather chasing them, creating nostalgic echoes of his past glories for a new generation and a different audience. It was the necessary evolution of a survivor, but it marked a distinct new chapter in his career, one defined more by adaptation than by groundbreaking innovation. As his filmmaking style evolved, his public persona became even more pronounced and contentious. If in the 90s, he was known for feuds with his creative collaborators, in the 21st century, he became known for his unfiltered and often inflammatory public statements, frequently amplified by the power of social media. He transformed into an outspoken industry commentator, never shy about sharing his opinions, no matter how controversial. A notable incident arose when the actress Candy Yuen, who had starred in one of his productions, publicly accused him of manipulation and unfair treatment. The allegations created a media stir, and Wong Jing responded with a vehement and public denial, dismissing the claims in his characteristically blunt style. The affair devolved into a messy public dispute that played out in the headlines, reinforcing his image as a tough, uncompromising industry figure. This tendency to engage in public spats became a hallmark of his later career. In a more recent and widely discussed controversy, he took to social media to launch a scathing attack on Kyung To, a hugely popular young singer and member of the cantopop boy band Mirror. Wong derided the star's appearance and performance style, sparking an immediate and ferocious backlash from the singer's massive and dedicated fan base. The incident dominated entertainment news for days, and the public outcry was so significant that Wong eventually issued a public retraction of his comments. The episode was a perfect illustration of the modern Wong Jing, a veteran of a bygone era clashing with the sensibilities of a new generation, using the instant platform of the internet to voice opinions that were as provocative as they were unfiltered. He also made waves when he publicly called for movie stars to reduce their high salaries to help the struggling film industry, a move that was seen by some as a practical suggestion from a seasoned producer, and by others as a hypocritical statement from a man who had built his empire on the star system. These incidents painted a picture of an elder statesman who refused to fade quietly into the background, ensuring he remained a constant topic of conversation, often for his words as much as for his work. To truly understand Wong Jing's 5-decade career, one must look beyond the individual controversies and box office receipts and see him as a unique kind of artist, the unapologetic commercial auteur. To label him a mere hack or a soulless moneymaker is to willfully ignore the skill, consistency, and astute vision that fueled his incredible run. While his primary goal was always profit, he pursued it with a singular style and an unwavering philosophy. His body of work, for all its perceived flaws, is instantly recognizable. He possesses a deep, almost instinctual understanding of what makes a mass audience tick. He knows the precise formula for a cheap laugh, the exact moment to insert a thrilling action beat, and the perfect star persona to anchor a flimsy plot. His art is not the art of personal expression, but the art of mass communication. It is the craft of creating a product so perfectly attuned to the desires of the public that its success becomes almost inevitable. His unapologetic commercialism is not a weakness, but his defining characteristic. In an industry filled with artists struggling to balance their vision with market demands, Wong Jing simply eliminated the struggle. He made the market his vision. His career is a masterclass in cinematic populism, a testament to a filmmaker who understood his audience better than almost anyone and gave them exactly what they wanted, time and time again. Ultimately, Wong Jing's legacy is destined to be as contentious and polarizing as the man himself. He is a figure of immense contradiction, a man who is simultaneously one of the most successful and most reviled filmmakers in Hong Kong history. There will never be a simple verdict on his career, because he represents the fundamental schism in the debate about cinema's purpose. for his legions of supporters, and for many within the industry, he is a pragmatic hero. He is the man who kept the lights on, who created thousands of jobs, who launched the careers of superstars, and who provided countless hours of pure, unadulterated entertainment for millions of people. He gave audiences an escape, a chance to laugh and forget their troubles, and in a high-pressure city like Hong Kong, that service was invaluable. For his detractors and for many critics, however, he represents a creative race to the bottom. He is the filmmaker whose staggering success proved that quality was secondary to marketability, encouraging a generation of producers to abandon artistic ambition in favor of cheap thrills and lazy formulas. They argue that his influence contributed to the decline of the more thoughtful, artful cinema that had once flourished alongside the blockbusters. His recent transformation into a provocative public commentator has only sharpened this divide, making him a lightning rod for broader cultural debates. He is a living symbol of the eternal conflict between art and commerce, a complex figure whose story is inseparable from the story of modern Hong Kong cinema. His legacy, much like one of his own films, is a whirlwind of action, comedy, and controversy, a messy, energetic, and utterly unforgettable spectacle. In the end, Wong Jing's legacy is a paradox. Is he a commercial visionary who understood audiences better than anyone, or a cynical producer who prioritized profit over art? Perhaps he's both. His career forces us to ask what we truly value in film: personal expression or popular entertainment. A hitmaker, a provocateur, and an undeniable force of nature, his impact on Hong Kong cinema is as massive as it is debatable. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from film history.